couple of weeks, there's going to be a convening at the in DC about this question of crime victim privacy and open data, and police data especially.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting, and we're bringing together a lot of different people who are going to have different points of view, trying to figure out what makes sense. I think what makes it difficult for me is my orientation in my work was almost always towards working with individuals. I didn't really choose to do policy work or constitutional cases. I always wanted to work with an individual to solve an individual's problem. And that's part of the reason why I do privacy work, is because privacy is about how do you meet an individual where they're at and help them navigate it. So when we talk about the privacy questions, there's a society level argument.
That the more information we have, the better it is to come up with systemic solutions.
But for an individual person, it could be disastrous.
Right.
And then that, of course, becomes what's the balance between those two. And we definitely live in a country that more often, that the balance of the individual carries much more weight than it does in a lot of other cultures.
Anything can be misused.
Right.
I mean,
right.
anything.
Right.
And the fact that I want to, like, I think many things about how we train programmers as being totally the wrong way to do it. But a huge component of that is, like, there is no ethics requirement for a computer science major. There's an ethics requirement to be a lawyer.
Right.
There's an ethics requirement to be a doctor.
Right. Well, that's interesting.
There's no ethics requirement to go run a computer or a server or a cluster or a...
Right.
Right?
Right.
I think if we change one of the prerequisites to be a computer science major from having to have taken calculus to having done 6 months of rape victim advocacy or domestic violence shelter service, we would have a really different programming population in like 6 years. It would be amazing, right? It would just like change the world. And that would be one thing to change the world.
It's interesting. Like, what do you think is a required understanding before you start a field?
Yeah.
That could have all kinds of interesting consequences.
Because it would proliferate out from the programmers. I mean, because like when you think about it, there are healthcare record systems, electronic medical record systems that, let's say a transgender person has done all of the paperwork and they are now identified in all the systems correctly as a man.
Yep.
They're a man that can't get a pap smear.
Right. Right.
The system will not allow them.
That's right.
To get a pap smear because everything was talked about in binary.
Right.
Right. And there's no contextualization in those systems.
I think that's true both in coding and in law, which is so much of it. The problems arise because nobody, when they were writing it, imagined the situation, which is why, like, the point of being able to see someone like me being powerless and being able to see somebody not like me getting access to power, both of those things matter, because then you can imagine a whole different set of needs which generate a whole different set of solutions. And so I do that all the time when I talk about privacy. I'm like, the law never imagined. This is my big laugh line. I'm like, privilege for lawyers is very delicate. It can be broken really easily if a lawyer cooperates with another professional, because they never imagined lawyers would cooperate with anybody. So they didn't write a rule for them. And so therefore what? Like, sometimes we just have to say this system isn't working because it just had a failure of imagination. So we're going to do the imagination and we're going to come up with a solution, and then we have to advocate to get it into the law. But the way that it was originally written isn't necessarily right. Same thing with the coding. Yeah. I mean, it's also the tyranny of the forms, which I think the tyranny of the forms is 10 times worse when it's in the computer and it was coded by someone else, which is, people only do if there's not a space for the form on it, they won't do it.
Oh,
and if there's a space for the form, it must be filled.
Yes. Yes, validation requirements.
Yes. And so that was true when it was just a Xerox piece of paper.
Yes.
And you would say to somebody, just don't fill that box out. No, but it's there, I have to.
Yeah.
And now, that it really actually takes some kind of expertise to change it, it's even more intense.